Give the gift of Rev Voice this Christmas. Rejoice with Rev Voice when you sign up and enter to win 12 days of giveaways, including a 2015 Jeep Wrangler from Bahamas Bus and Truck.
Bahamians brace for VAT implementation. Fox Hill families remember 4 people murdered during last year's shooting on Freedom Park. The Jonkunu Corporation not budging on its decision to eliminate 1 lap from the New Year's Day parade. Plus, how will you ring in the new year? We've got those stories and a whole lot more tonight. I'm Bonnie Toot and NB12 starts now. Topping news tonight, just hours before value-added tax is implemented in the Bahamas at a rate of 7.5%, Bahamians rushed to the various utility companies today to pay their bills. Some lines stretched outside the doors. At the Bahamas Telecommunications Company, officials say the new tax will be placed on all of their services, including 5-cent text messages. Kyle Joaquin tells us more.
One of the many companies getting set for value-added tax come tomorrow, BTC. And come midnight, all customers, whether making a simple phone call or sending a text message, will have to pay the extra 7.5%.
Within a matter of hours, a $10 phone card will go a little less further than you're used to. With the implementation of value-added tax just hours away, many are still wondering which services will require the extra 7.5%. Well, BTC recently put out an ad detailing how its services will be charged. In it, a few frequently asked questions were given some answers, like how will VAT affect customers, prepaid and postpaid? Will VAT be charged on long-distance calls? Will VAT be charged on every single BTC service? And how will it affect data packages? BTC's VP of Financial Control, Ansel Watson, explained that its systems are set, and come 12 a.m., customers will have to pay VAT on every single service provided by the company. Watson says aside from those services that are free, come tomorrow, by law, every service provided by BTC must be accompanied by VAT.
Almost everything, because it's mandated by law that we apply VAT on all our services. A reconnection service fee, VAT will be charged. Things that are offered free of service, take for instance a replacement of a phone, of a home phone, where there's not a sale, therefore no VAT will be charged on that.
Now, a text message from a BTC mobile device currently costs 5 cents. Watson says even that 5 cents will be given the 7.5% tax. And it's the same with each call. Let's say, for example, a call costs 20 cents per minute. The 7.5% VAT will be applied. According to Watson, customers and the general community as a whole should pretty much understand that the price of things will go up, and it will become the norm come tomorrow.
I'll certainly be anticipating an increase of paying things out of our pocket, but this is the reality that we'll face in 2015. We have to control our spending a bit more, focus our spending a bit more, as we now have to increase the revenue for the government through the value-added tax of 7.5%.
Now, for those prepaid customers, here's how it'll work.
Prepaid will be charged VAT on usage. When the customer makes a voice call, text, activate data, then VAT will be applied at that time. VAT will not be charged during the sale of the top-up. So it's not until the customer actually uses the top-up that VAT will be applied in the system.
Watson says it doesn't matter whether you're a prepaid customer or prefer the postpaid billing route, all customers will have to pay that extra 7.5%.
Postpaid is useful because it keeps a permanent record. There's a bill that you receive, now called a tax invoice. This will facilitate businesses to properly fill out the tax return and claim the input tax.
As for data packages, they too will be charged 7.5%, but only during activation. Reporting for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
While government officials have insisted that charitable organizations will be largely shielded from value-added tax, some of those charities fear the tax will cause them to suffer tremendously. Jasmine Brown has that angle.
Organizers of the charities that we spoke to say while they will not be directly impacted by VAT, they believe that there will be an indirect impact.
In fact, President of Great Commission Ministries International Bishop Walter Hanchel says even without the implementation of VAT, the nonprofit organization is struggling to keep its doors open as fewer and fewer people have disposable income.
My God, how in the world could we make it helping so many people every day? And the funds are not coming in. Great Commission right now, to be quite frank, we are thinking about cutting back on some of our services because you could only take a loss for so long. A business could only take a loss for so long. A ministry could only operate in the red for so long because somebody has to pick up the pieces. And so if we don't see a turnaround very shortly, Great Commission Ministries will be one of those organizations that will be forced, because of conditions beyond our control, we will be forced to cut back on some of our premier services. Great Commission doors should never be closed. The people need this. This is a part of social services. That's what we offer, social services.
In a statement released on the government's VAT Bahamas website in August, Financial Secretary John Roll sought to clarify the VAT status of charities. In that statement, Roll said, "It has to be emphasized that charities should be largely shielded in how they are impacted by VAT. The services that they deliver will be VAT exempt under the provisions of the legislation. And eligible charities will be able to claim a refund of VAT paid on the acquisition of certain goods and services." He went on to say eligible charities will need to meet the criteria for eligibility set out in the VAT regulations. Hanchel says while that may be so, the fact remains that the cost of operating a charity will increase, and he believes donations will also go down.
If we don't pay our utility bills, we are disconnected, we are cut off. And they treat us just like they treat everybody else. We have no type of relief from these utility companies, and we need help.
The Salvation Army has also reported that charitable donations continue to spiral downward since the economic recession. Head of Salvation Army Bahamas, Major Lester Ferguson, also says that will be a blow for the charitable organization, calling it a double whammy. But his outlook on the matter is a little more optimistic, saying they are hopeful that the selfless giving of others will see them through.
A lot of charities like the Salvation Army will be hard-pressed, with the implementation of that. It's a double whammy for us because on one side, our donations are going to be affected. Because on one side, our donations are going to be affected, and then on the other side, our expenses will be affected. So we could certainly use the support of the public, and we believe, like I've said before, the Salvation Army has always been blessed to be in a community that is so supportive, and we have every confidence that we'll make it through the days ahead.
The government plans to implement VAT at a rate of 7.5% effective January 1st, 2015. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Brown.
It's been 1 year since 4 people were murdered during a shooting incident on Freedom Park in Fox Hill. The mother of one of the victims spoke with NB12 today about how she has been coping with the loss of her son. She says his tragic death is like a wound that will never heal. Simone Davis reports.
1 year after the Fox Hill Day shooting that claimed the lives of 4 people, including 19-year-old Shaquille Demerit, his mother says it feels like just yesterday it happened, as the family is still left to pick up the pieces. December 27, 2013 is a day that many Fox Hill residents will never forget, as the community that lives as a family lost 4 of their loved ones all at once during a reckless shooting on the park. Sonia Kemp describes seeing her son, who was shot in the head by a stray bullet, lifeless on the ground with his brain gushing out of his head. She says the graphic images pop up in her head almost every day as she recalls hearing the gunshots that night.
I knew something was wrong with my son. my husband was sitting in the bed, and I turned to him and I said, Keely went to the shop. I said, you heard that? I said, Keely went to the store. And I just stood, I froze right where I was by the ironing board, and I heard like screaming. It sounded like a war zone outside. People were screaming, and I said, something bad has happened. And I started running down the stairs, and by the time I got down the stairs, there was a little boy, and he was banging on the door, and I opened the door, and he said, are you Miss Kemp? And I said, yes. And he said, somebody shot Keely in his head.
She reflects on her fondest memories with her son, who she describes as humble, quiet, and loved by everyone in the community. She says she believes he touched more lives in his death than in his life.
Keely was such a good boy. He didn't deserve that. He went to church. He was a junior deacon in church. He was a good boy. He studied. He graduated with 4 points. He knew everything that he wanted in life. He was 19, he had his own business. He was going to make a contribution to society.
She added that the incident has brought their family and the community closer as they lean on one another for moral support. Kemp added that her son's death greatly affected her younger son, who still finds it hard to cope with his big brother's death.
I always teach my children to believe in God, that if you do what's right, if you be obedient to your parent, God, he promised you long life and, a good life. So one day my husband asked my son to do something, and for the first time that he talked back to his dad, and he said, he said, why did you do that? He said, Keely never did that. And his reply was, Mommy, Keely was a good boy. Keely obeyed. Keely obeyed, y'all. He obeyed God, and somebody still killed him.
Kemp says her hope for the new year is that people understand the hurt they are causing a family by killing their loved ones. She says she believes the high murder count in the country is caused by issues that are much deeper than a rivalry, and the government should not be at fault for it.
It all stems, all the crime, I think it stems back from love. You don't blame the government, you don't blame the pastors. They don't live in your house. If each one of us would deal with our own household, we'd have a better society. If you raise your children right, and I raise my children right, then who's going to go out there and do all that crime?
The grieving mother says the loss of her son has inspired her to write a book called The Night Death Knocked on My Door, which is about her son's life, their relationship, and how he impacted everyone who knew him and even those who didn't.
One day I'll see my Keely again.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
In other news, despite strong opposition from leaders of the Valley Boys and Saxon's Jonkanu groups, head of the parade management team Douglas Hanna says officials will not change their decision to eliminate one of the Bay Street laps from the New Year's Day Jonkanu parade. Hanna says police officials recommended that the second Bay Street lap be cut from the parade after hours-long delays resulted in the Boxing Day Jonkanu parade ending Friday afternoon.
On Boxing Day, the parade went after 1 p.m. There was an issue with parade still going on, stores are open, roads closed. Although we've had all of the protests and some members of Jonkanu groups have expressed their concern about the 3 laps, despite that, all of the groups have told me that they are going to ensure that this parade goes smoothly.
However, that explanation was not good enough for some Jonkanuers who attended a news conference held this afternoon by the parade management team. Isaiah Taylor insisted the move is an injustice to Jonkanu fans who purchased tickets, Jonkanuers, and their sponsors.
And I think this is totally wrong. And again, this is totally wrong. We're thinking about us, but we're not thinking about the people who went out and spent their hard-earned money to purchase tickets to come and watch us perform on Bay Street with kids. And we're hitting them hard in the face at short notice. This is wrong. I mean, me personally, like I said, I'm speaking for me now. I don't support the 1 lap on Bay Street.
However, Hannah said the decision relates to tomorrow's parade, not future Junkanoo parades.
A decision has been made not on Junkanoo parades. I just like for everybody to understand. Decision has been made because of circumstances on one Junkanoo parade. And I believe in the wisdom of the persons who has been framing the rules for a long time, put a provision in the rules for these side of circumstances.
The parade starts at 2 a.m. and is expected to end by noon Thursday. While there is a 10% chance of brief spotty showers, meteorologist Godfrey Burnside says he expects the Junkanoo parade to be rain-free.
A lovely night in store weather-wise. We still have that frontal boundary that is stalled over Grand Bahama and Abaco. Should not move towards the New Providence area. Should become diffused in the next 24 hours in the vicinity of Grand Bahama. So we expect just a few patchy clouds around. Temperature probably dropped to about 68. The winds are going to be light and variable, but I won't rule out a 10% chance of a brief spotty shower. Okay, I won't rule it out, but I see basically another rain-free Junkanoo.